вот, короче, это вот фейк. Это вот мошенники. И вот это, кстати, тоже. Ну да, ну это фейк, нет, это все. Ну а может все нормально, может так показалось. Бла-бла-кар, репутация плохая, короче. Свои люди, все свои, сочтемся их. Сам считываться будешь. Считываться сам, считываешь. Ладно, шутка какая-то. Шутка, шучу я, шутка. Шутка.
Let's talk about ways of spicing up F major. So C major in the root form is just C, E, and G. And F major in the root form is just F, A, and C. In the first run, what you might do is play an alternating form, such as this one. Now let's talk about some ways to spice this up. The first trick is I'm going to use something called a grace note. And a grace note is just a note or set of notes that quickly precedes the note that you are about to play. And in the context of the accompaniment and the chords, let me show you two variations, a slow and a fast one. For this So the slow one is this. What I'm doing here is I'm starting out from a D and a G, and then playing the E. Resuming the normal alternating form. D, E. Notice that my fifth finger, the pinky, keeps the G pressed. The same thing can be applied to the F. For the F, it's I hit the E and the C, and then I play the A. Now for the faster variation, and here I am going to play the exact same thing, but my transition from the DG to the EG will be a lot faster. Tired of playing your piano accompaniments in a very amateur teach you how to get that pro accompaniment sound in only 6 steps. So let's go ahead and dive in. Alright, the chord progression that we're going to be looking at is a very simple chord progression in the key of F. Alright? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to first show you the way a lot of amateurs would play this, and then we're going to develop it into the pro level sound. Okay, so the 2 chords that you really need to know for this chord progression are B flat major. We play it like this, and this is called the 4 chord in the key of F. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, it's just a simple major chord, and then we go down to the 1 chord in the key of F, which is an F major chord. Okay, so this is the basis of this particular chord progression, and it's a very important chord progression to learn because it's used in lots of different tunes. Now, if you're enjoying this lesson, please give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button for more videos just like this. Alright, so now that you have these 2 chords, how would an amateur pianist accompany using these chords? Well, they might play something like this. Okay, this is a very basic kind of pop groove. Basically on the B flat chord, I'm kind of doubling the F here, and then on the F chord, I'm doubling the C on the bottom there. Okay, so kind of a little bit more interesting sounding chords, and then I'm doing a basic pop
groove. 1, 2. Which sounds, but it sounds very amateur. And there's a lot more interesting way of playing a chord progression like this. And this is the next step. How do we get that pro sound? Okay, here's the first step. You should use inversions when you're playing a chord progression like this. And when I say inversions, I mean two different things. First, you should play inversions in the right hand. So instead of going to an F major like this, we're going to use what's called a first inversion F major like this in the right hand. So we're just changing the order of notes. The second thing that's also really nice to do is to change the inversion in your left hand. So instead of going B flat major down to an F where the root's on the bottom, it's really nice to go. Isn't that beautiful? So now on my F chord, instead of going down to that root, I'm going to use a first inversion F major chord on the bottom. Okay, and this creates a really nice bass line. Interesting than the bass line jumping B flat to F, B flat to F. All right, let's go ahead and play this with the included backing track. Here's the backing track at 85 BPM. Here we go. Sounding great on this. By the way, this lesson comes with 3 downloadable backing tracks. You can practice this at different tempos. You can also download the lesson sheet music you're seeing up here on the top left of the screen. I'll put a link to both of those below. All right, so what's the next step? Well, now that we're using chord inversion, the next step is to add some chord substitutes. And there's one chord in this progression that's really nice to substitute, and that is your B flat major chord. A lot of pro musicians will swap out that bass note B flat for a G. And it creates a really cool chord called the G minor 7 chord. Now, if you don't know your minor 7 chords, that's all right. You can learn them in our minor 7 chords course at pianowithjohnny.com. I'll put a link to that below. So let's go ahead and use this G minor 7 chord in this chord progression. We're going to start with the first chord, B flat major. Go to our F over A, really nice. And then instead of going back to the B flat major, we're going to use the G minor 7 chord like that. And all we're doing is we're just changing the bottom note. Before we had a B flat major, now we're just swapping out the bottom note, and it sounds way cooler. Now, instead of going B flat to F, and then back to B flat, we're going to go. And what this does is it creates a way more interesting bass line. Now the bass line's going. That's way cooler than going B flat F. So once again, you want to consider your bass line when you're using using chord substitutes. Alright, before we move on to step 3, if you want to learn more chord substitutes that you can use in a progression like this, check out our passing chords and reharmonization course. I'll put a link to that below. Alright, step 3 is to take your harmony to the next level, and this is to use what are called sus2 chords. Now, so far, when we play our chords like B flat major to F, we're using basically normal major chords, B flat major, F major. But there is a way cooler way of playing your major chords, and that is to turn them into sus2 chords. Doesn't that sound way cooler than just playing your normal major chords? So here's what we're doing. We're taking our B flat major chord we played like that earlier, and we're taking that third, that D, and we're moving it down a whole step to the C. Okay, this creates what's called a sus2 chord. It's a B flat sus2 chord. And then you can do it on the F. Instead of playing F major, we play an F sus2 chord. We're moving that third, that A, down a whole step to G. Okay, so you kind of need to understand how these chords work. That's a B flat sus2 down to an F sus2. Okay, so now let's go ahead and use these chords with these chord inversions. Okay, so B flat sus2 will play like that. F sus2, we're going to play like that, okay? And all we're doing is we're taking that A, which we had before, and we're moving it down a whole step to G, and it gives it a way cooler sound. Okay? Now, here's another really cool trick you can use, which is to play your B flat sus2 with the G in the bass. Gorgeous, okay? And basically what's happening here is instead of playing what's called a G minor 7 chord, we're actually playing a really fancy chord. To understand chords like 11th chords, this is called a chord extension chord, and if you want to learn more about chord extensions, you can in our chord extensions course. I'll put a link to that below as well. Okay, so that's a G minor 11 chord, beautiful, and then F add 2 over A, or F sus2 over A. Okay, so this is kind of the new way of playing the chord progression. Let's do a little jam on this with the backing track. Here it is. Here we go. Fun. I'm having a great time showing this to you, and I'm so excited for you because you're ready for step number 4, which is to make it sound a little bit more rhythmic. Okay. This is really where you start to get more of that pro sound, because you get more of that driving groove. Okay, so what we're going to look at is the right hand, and what we want to do is we want to increase the rhythmic frequency of the right hand. Before we went which is a very, again, sort of amateur way of playing the rhythm on the chords, but a lot cooler way is to play it like this. So for the most part, the left hand is the same. I'm just going 1, 2, 3. But in the right hand, I'm going. You see that rhythm? I'll count it out for you. 1 and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and then you do it on the rest of the chords. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. So you want to get this basic rhythm. Let's do it once really slowly and then we'll play it with the track. Here it is. 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4. Okay, you want to speed that up. Let's go ahead and play this with the backing track. We're going to use the slower backing track so we can nail this rhythm. Here we go. It's sounding a lot more professional, and what we're going to do next in step number 5 is we're going to add some groove to the left hand. Okay, and this is where you really get that professional sound, because now the hands are sort of doing a dance with each other and they sound really, really cool. So how does this left hand go? Well, I call this the left hand single note driver. Okay, it's a very important thing if you want to accompany at a pro level and you want that driving sound. Is it's really nice to take one note from your chord and let that drive the fundamental rhythm. Do you see how that F is sort of driving all of the chords? This is going to be our single note driver. It's very, very important to use. So here's the rhythm that you really need to know for the This is your driver. I don't care what chords you're using. This is the rhythm that you're going to use on this single note driver. Okay, so practice that rhythm. Make sure it's solid. 1 once you have, here it is nice and slowly. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. Okay, so you're going to want to speed that up, and let's go ahead and play this with the slower backing track. Here we go. Before I teach you the final step, if you enjoyed playing this groove, you can learn more grooves just like this in our pop accompaniment patterns courses. I'll put a link to those below. All right, step number 6 is a ton of fun. Basically, so far, we're playing our accompaniment in what I would call kind of a lower position of the piano, but it's very nice when you're playing an accompaniment to move around the piano. Use this technique. So the chords are B flat add 2. We're kind of spreading the notes out of that B flat chord, and now we're actually adding the 2 the third, so we call it a B flat. This one, G minor 11, we're gonna play it like that. Super nice chord, and then back to our F, add 2 over A. Let's go ahead and play this groove with the backing track. Here we go. Thanks for watching, and if you we have over 900 step-by-step lessons in pop, jazz, blues, theory, technique, improvisation. It's the full learning platform for all playing levels. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Так нет. Так нет. Потихоньку.